wanted to walk around, register most voters while I was there.
Yeah. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is seating alternates. I don't think Kate's gonna be here, so I'll seat Joe Gary's instead of in place of Kate. Next is any changes to the agenda. Hearing no changes, we'll move on to approval of the minutes, starting with the last meeting of May 15th, where we set the mill rate. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of that meeting?
I move that motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Give a second to that motion?
I'll second it. I'm not sure you have enough people to vote on it.
I got quorum, right?
3, 4, 5, 6.
I've got to abstain, I wasn't at that, yeah, I wasn't there either.
But you still have 4 up.
Okay. I got 3. Yeah, you did. What's that?
Couple changes that I see, where it says set the mill rate for the 12-13 budget year. Chairman is currently at $24.2. There should be no dollar sign there. No dollar sign on the 24.86. And if you go down below to the motion, 24.8%, it's just 24.8.
Okay.
No percentage points.
Okay.
I'll make the motion for this. There, or Jill, did you make a motion? I'll move those changes.
Okay, we have a second. I'll second those changes. Any further discussion of the minutes? So can I have a motion to approve the amendments to the minutes? I mean, can I vote on approval amendments to the minutes? All in favor of the amendments?
Abstain.
Oh, we don't have it, because I wasn't here. So.
Okay, we'll move on to, we won't address the minutes of that meeting.
Should we just vote on it? I mean,
You can vote on it, you don't have to be at the meeting to vote on it.
Okay.
You don't?
No,
Okay, I'll change to approve.
okay. You don't have to, you certainly don't have to vote, but you don't have to be at the meeting.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, that means we can approve the amendment then too.
Yeah.
Right, you
Just
can
affect
approve.
the correction.
The amendment is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so all in favor of the amendments to the minutes? Opposed, abstained, okay. So next thing we go is to the approval of the minutes then. All in favor of approving the minutes as written with the amendments? Okay. Objections, abstain? Okay, one abstention, that's fine. All right, next is the April 17th meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of that meeting?
I'll move that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, I've got an extra copy here if someone would like to look at it.
You don't have another copy, Ben?
I do not have
There you
a
go.
That's
There
okay.
you go.
Oh, thank you.
So can I have a motion to approve the minutes to that meeting
Reggie and Joe just there?
I think we did that.
for the April? Okay. Any discussion on it? I know there's a few people are still reading. favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention?
I'll be in favor.
2 abstentions? 3 abstentions, it goes down.
Actually, I will be in favor, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I wasn't thinking quickly
Okay.
like that.
So, 2 abstentions. I think that's it for minutes?
So that's approved then? Did you
Yeah.
vote for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, opportunity for public to speak. Any public comments? No?
No.
Okay. So on to reports, bookkeeper's report, Annie?
Okay. I guess I might as well move up here.
There you go.
All right, I just did a sheet this week, actually yesterday, and I updated all the revenues. I presume everybody got their revenue and expenditure sheet via email, okay? Anyway, I did this projected revenue sheet here, okay? I just updated all the actual revenues to date as of yesterday. And I'll just cut to the chase here with the bottom line. If you go to the very bottom line, we're at a plus 175,866.35.
886 for the record.
886, sorry. I need new glasses. And that is without taking in any surplus. And I think the best way to do it is to just go over to the delta side, because that has your pluses and minuses of what was actually taken in as of June 11th versus what was budgeted in the column before that. So you can see that, you know, we were up on taxes, 58,000 plus. Prior taxes, 119. You have a few minuses here along the way, like 29,000 in town clerk fees. And keep in mind, these are as of yesterday. So actually, we're in good shape as far as revenues go to have 175,000 plus to budget without having to pull in any surplus.
Why did
Any questions on that?
why did the local capital improvement?
Oh,
grants, why is that?
good question. That is because that is 2 years worth of LoSiP. They didn't give us our LoSiP money until
Yeah, I remember.
August of last year,
Mhm.
for last year's. So we were in the hole there for last year. And then we had this year's that came in the timing that it should have. So we had an actual pickup there. Because I took it as a negative in last year's budget. I do it as of real time, what actually happens with things posted in the general fund as of June 30th.
Because of the prior year taxes, that was significant. Also over what was projected.
And, let's see, I did get a report from Linda Sheffield. And the current tax collections as of June, when she gave me her last money of last week, was 98.41% collection rate. So she's doing fabulous there.
That's what this represents, the number
Yes.
you're seeing,
Yes.
98.4? It probably includes the prior taxes as well, which you notice is.
Yes,
up quite a bit.
she handles all of that as current taxes.
That's a lot more than, it's almost twice what we budgeted.
Right. So the collection rate's excellent right now.
And what is the other, and then the assessor revenue, and what's?
The assessor revenue, remember we were, what's the term we were using? We kind of contracted out Beth in the assessor's office,
Yeah, that was the Burlington, okay.
and the Burlington kind of squashed the deal on
Yeah,
that.
okay, and what's the other?
Other
Yeah.
income, that is stuff like, sale of any scrap metal, any, parking, not parking tickets, but it's, fingerprinting that the police do, any kind of
Anything that
other
incidental, it doesn't have its own line
income
item.
stuff
Yep, okay.
that's outside of the realm. The big thing that I reclassified as of a couple of meetings ago was that, that retail sales tax. Remember, I had that into other income and I reclassified it back into that retail sales tax account. Because now it's called it's not manufacturers, but it was
Okay.
manufacturers
Yep.
stuff, just to get that all in line there.
That 82, I think that's pretty close to what we budgeted for this coming year, right? For the retail sales tax. That's a pretty close number.
You know what they said for retail sales tax? It was going to defer back to what we had in there for manufacturers before, because that's really technically what the term is now. They've changed it 3 times, the name of it.
So what is it now?
That was like 112,000.
It's gonna be called something else in next fiscal year.
Okay.
But that's basically where it's generated from, is that manufacturers, and they wanted to keep it consistent with that, but they're calling it a different name, which is so, I don't know why the state has to do that, to be so confusing.
So would you have put in the manufacturer's amount for 2010, 2011 or not? Or
No,
you- they're not
because
that
it's not
equivalent?
called that
Okay.
in this calendar year. It's under this retail sales tax. And that's where it's been posted as such. Now, next fiscal year, they're calling it a totally different name.
How does it compare with the manufacturers, just to get an idea?
It's basically the same
It is,
thing.
okay, because I know there was some concern that it
It's
was
basically the same thing. I don't know
Okay.
why they're changing the names on this stuff to
Okay.
confuse things.
Okay, so basically it's,
It's basically
Okay.
the same thing.
alright, that's good though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, people pay taxes this time of year, like between now and the end of June, I mean, so we like to see more on the,
You could see a little bit more. I don't know how much more to expect to see in there, but you got the bulk of it in here right now. And I think your bottom line shows you that you're 175,000 to the good, and you haven't even had to pull in your surplus, so I think you're in good shape. I think that's what you walk away with from this.
you collected all the state money?
Yes,
So this, that.
the FEMA money, we're gonna talk about that a little later on, okay? As I said again, with this thing, for what's happening here with these revenues, you post the revenues for what actually has happened as of the time that it happened. There's no receivables posted in here. And I think what you're talking about is the snowstorms and the so forth that we got going on. I'll discuss that later in Dan's report that he's got me doing. But those would be a receivable, and those are not classified as actual real dollar revenue in your general fund.
So by the time the year is done, the 175,000 will probably turn into 200,000, just for a round number, plus 145,000 surplus carryover that we did not use, so that means we've got, without looking at the expenditure side, $350,000 to put into next year's budget, as opposed to the 140 in the following year's budget, as opposed to the 145,000 we had to put into this year's budget.
I just want to point out that your special ed costs, if you go to that under education, you can see special ed. That's a significant increase over what was budgeted too. Just so you know, just so you know that.
So, Amy, this is as of 5/31, but you said this is as of today?
This is as of yesterday. I
Yesterday.
posted everything
Okay.
that's posted in the general fund as of
Okay.
yesterday.
Ben, didn't we put in 300,000 into this year's budget?
For
Altogether?
next year's, for 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
This, what I'm talking about, would be for the following
For the
year.
following, so it's gonna be at the 300,000 level, at
Depending
least
what happens with
available.
the revenue, but that's what it looks
At
like.
least
Your
available.
expenditures,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Any questions or comments before we move on? So how are we looking on the expenditure side?
Okay, on the expenditure side, we've got a bunch of projects going on, which I'll get into when I give Dan's report. But the thing that I will say with the expenditures is we will be within budget, no problem, right? I'm just not exactly sure how this is gonna shake out yet, because there's some things that he's got going on that I'm not quite sure how they're gonna cost out, but they will be covered on the expense side, no problem.
School?
And I cannot address the school,
Okay.
ever. I don't know what's happening there.
I'm sure they would be here if there was a problem on the school side.
So this expenditure budget, it's like, the total is 13.4 million, so this is less the local school board.
Yeah,
I mean, the
You
total
know,
budget was like 28.
with the local school, they do their expenditure run and their payroll run, and then they do transfers
Okay.
from the general fund based on what they've got, and
You're not
I don't,
involved in that, okay.
that's not part of my purview to keep track
Is
of
there
those
anything-
things.
Other than the local board of ed, are there other expenses that aren't in here?
No,
Okay.
Region 7, they're up to snuff, they've gotten all of their assessments, everybody else pretty much has gotten their assessments by now. It's just a matter of wrapping up and tying up a few ends with some highway things that are going on.
How about cap expense?
Oh,
Is that here?
boy,
No.
I'm not prepared to talk about that one tonight.
Okay. But just, it's not.
Because that's a whole nother venue, I didn't think we were gonna get into that one tonight.
But capital rolls over into a non-lapsing fund.
Okay.
So
Right, what you do
Well, I'm just
with,
trying to
We
get a
should
feel
still get
for-
an idea of where we
yeah,
stand with it. for the end
and
of
we
the
could
year.
do that, I just didn't realize you guys wanted to get
Okay.
into that
No, I was
tonight,
just
otherwise
curious. I
I'd
just
have
saw
some
the total-
capital stuff
The
for you.
total expenses compared to the total town
Yeah,
budget was.
Because you know what you do
blah, blah.
is, this is all the general fund expenses, and it includes capital. So
Right.
what you're doing with those capital items are you're writing a check out of the general fund, and you're transferring those capital items out from the general fund into capital reserve account, which is a whole separate animal, which gets tracked separately for each individual project.
Okay.
And I have that stuff, but it's in there, I just didn't know you
Okay,
guys
but
wanted
it's
to
just- it's not
discuss that
included here.
tonight.
We really should take a look and see for the projects that we identified for this year, where we stand against them, what kind of money is
Yeah,
expended,
at some
what kind
point,
of
it
money
doesn't
is
have to
left.
be.
Do you wanna have that like as a year-end thing? Because,
Yeah.
you know, to wrap up the full year-end, you're gonna be probably August
Okay.
before
Yeah, I was thinking
everything
September,
is
August.
thoroughly wrapped up and all those bills are paid and everything.
Okay, yeah, just at the close of the year, you probably wanna
Okay.
see the whole package.
Yeah,
Would it be too difficult to, as projects get closed out, to be able to like include it somehow, or?
it's not a problem, cause I have that all the capital
Okay,
stuff is
yeah,
on
yeah.
a Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah,
So like when I write a check out of the general fund for one capital project, and it gets put into the capital reserve account, then I track everything on an Excel spreadsheet. And you can
Just
see
thinking-
exactly what,
We should look at
happened.
that quarterly, just like we look at the
quarterly.
revenue or whatever.
Yeah, it
We
would
do
be nice
monthly.
to have some
Yeah.
idea, because if you're out there, you know, there's this much surplus, this much left over from a project, but you don't have any real figures.
now
to go on.
capital is not
It's all-
considered any
it's all in the
surplus.
audit. All that's supposed to be,
In the audit.
absolutely.
Yearly. We're talking about a more like, as you go along, kind of an idea,
Well, I'm
right?
telling you, it's all in the audit.
I know.
Yeah,
Well, you're
That's
talking
true,
about-
too.
You're talking different things though.
No, man, I'm talking about the capital budget, where the status is in the last June 30th. There's been
But
very
that's not
few.
what you're talking about, is it, Annie, or am I totally off? We're
Well-
talking about this, as we go along this year where we're at, right?
Well, for each individual project that's a designated capital item, I have an Excel spreadsheet for exactly what was spent on
Right,
each
I know
one
that,
of
what
those
I'm saying,
items.
all that stuff is listed in the audit except for those that have been added
Yeah,
in
we
the
need,
last 9 months roughly.
yeah,
I guess the point is,
you get that at the end, yeah.
you look at other revenues, other expenditures on a monthly basis, we should look at that. I don't know if it makes sense to look at it monthly, but periodically anyway, just to see on the current year how we're doing against what we said we were gonna do.
Just give me the heads up on that. It's like, tonight, I'm just not prepared for that, but I, you know,
That's fine.
I've got all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Quarterly is great.
Hey, what's the reason for the 188 on the resident state troopers? Do we like pay that at the end of our fiscal year or
Oh,
something?
yes,
That's why it's all
yes.
sitting there?
yes. And we never get the bill. Actually, the bill just came in.
Okay.
Okay.
Just not
So
the
it'll
Um,
go to wash
It's
out.
always one of those things that you pay at the very end of the year.
Okay.
And that's why I say, you know, you're probably August before you've actually wrapped up the year and paid
Right.
all those bills that are posted for that particular time frame. And the auditors, that's part of their testing, they do watch that to make sure that anything that's invoiced before June 30th is paid within that time frame.
Just to go back to Ben's question on the income side, he had asked about, maybe perhaps some prepayments, if you will, on the taxes. Tax bills haven't gone up next year yet,
No.
right? Okay. So none of that income.
Yeah, I don't know what would be coming in other than maybe late taxes here and
Okay,
there.
okay. That's pretty well set.
Well, and remember, keep in mind, Linda is always a month behind me because she has statutorily until the 10th of the month to deliver the monies to me to put in the general fund. So I'm really always a month behind her. But as things flow, in the years that have gone by, it's always pretty much the same.
Do the tax liens get put on at the end of the year if people haven't paid before that? Or is it just as you go along? I'm thinking that might be a propellant to get more money in at a certain point before the end of the year or not?
I think that would probably be a question for the tax collector,
I'm thinking
because I don't know how that works down there.
I'd be in that position.
I'm just more, you know, money coming in when it comes in, you know? Good question.
So, I just have one more question, and I don't know if you have the answer to this one, but on the ambulance association, I remember last year, you know, there was a windfall, they asked for 75, and here we are now this year, we've got maybe 2 weeks left, and there's about $26,000 that's remaining, but yet,
Yes,
for this next
that will
budget
be
year,
a
they asked for
surplus.
75,000 again, and we budgeted for it, so I'm not following this, if we're gonna continue to do this,
Then
2
they
years
should
in a
adjust
row.
down, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah, I hear it. I
So
I hear what you're saying.
okay.
Good
Do
question.
you have, are you saying that it wasn't just adjusted down for this year?
No, they didn't adjust it down, it's in at 75 grand again, and it was approved. And that's why I'm questioning it, because it was done, you know, we had this windfall last year, and now we're looking at, you know, we've got 2 weeks left, and we're sitting on another 26,000.
Wasn't it
It
higher?
was dropped down from
Yeah,
the
it
prior
was
year,
high.
from 110 down to
Yep.
It wasn't
75.
down
Exactly.
enough, that's what it is. Yeah, it
And,
just,
and my understanding was during the budget cycle that they had another year where they were facing, you know, a potential, you know, 1/3, 25% to 1/3 cut, you know, that they weren't going to need, but yet, you know, went through with 75,000, so. And I'm just picking it up because I'm looking at the actual here, so.
they also have a built-up surplus that should be coming back in some form, because I hear out there that, you know, there's construction projects going on to use
From?
that, the ambulance.
Oh. I'm not sure, I'm not following, you mean coming back from the ambulance for construction?
No, I'm saying we have, they have a surplus built up.
Right.
Wasn't that part of the audit that came in? There was quite a large surplus built up.
Okay.
And not only have we not adjusted down enough so that they're still building up a surplus, but they're still holding on to that large surplus that they had built up.
Yeah.
And what I hear from various people out there is that there are little construction projects going on now, and they have been to try to use up that surplus. It would be nice if we were able to get it
I don't
back.
know that we can speak to what they have in surplus. I'm not sure we can speak to what they're still putting into surplus. All I'm seeing here is what we're giving them in the budget versus what we've actually given them.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing from Annie is we're not giving them the last 28,000 or whatever the number is.
Right, right.
So I don't
Because they
know if
didn't
that means there
request
is
that.
no surplus. I'm not sure what it means, other than
A
we're
surplus for
underfunding the
us,
budget.
right? For this year,
Well, we're underfunding what we budgeted for it.
right.
And we know that we're scaling things back. I don't know when we did this budget, if we were on the fence, when we did the 12-13 budget. It seems like we discussed that.
I don't think we were, I don't think the Board
discussion.
of Finance was in a position to address that number. I think it was really Dan with the association.
It seemed to me there was some discussion of it. I just don't remember the specifics of the discussion. I don't know if there's something in the works, or I don't remember the specifics without having been here.
And I don't know when they adopt their budget, when, as opposed to when you folks do, because I just wanna point out, like, what is it, Regional 7, or not Regional 7, the, dump. We have a deficit here of $578, it's because we did our budget before they finalized theirs. So we have a little discrepancy there.
They took it all in this year?
Yes, they did. The fourth quarter they took in. Yeah, they needed it this year. And there was one other one with, LCD also. We always do our budget before they do too, so, and I think we had a shortfall there too, also.
I understand that the RRDD #1 also has a surplus built up. That was part of the Board of Selectmen meeting, the last meeting.
They asked for their fourth quarter.
I know they did, but it's capital, and I'm not sure
Oh.
how, you know, they can,
That could be a different thing there.
it would be really, really good if we could get a report on the ambulance money, and maybe get a handle on how the capital can build up like that, because I believe it was like 300,000 that they
Well,
had in there.
I think that Selectman Jerem did get a handle on what was going on with it. Made a decision in his mind that we didn't need to fund it to that level unless or until we're ready to approve some kind of a
Yeah.
construction project, and scale the budget back accordingly.
Yeah.
He'll have to speak to the last scale back this year.
Yeah, if we could have a report on it, it would be really good, because what I remember is it wasn't scaled back enough, so that we're still building up that surplus.
Regarding
Unnecessarily.
RRDD1, they're their own separate entity, and they do have a budget hearing every year. They do a capital reserve where they actually build up a fund, and then they buy something, they build up a fund, and they buy things periodically based on a fund that they budget every year with the capital, so it's not a bad way of doing it. The real question in their budget is what they budgeted for tipping fees. Now, it's a big change, and they didn't budget the big change because they didn't want to go down and back up. So they kind of left it the way it was and gave us rebates in the fourth quarter, okay, for a period
That's
of
what
time.
we've had for those
For
four
probably about 4 or
quarters for
5
the
years.
last few years.
And
Yeah.
then that's seemingly gone, although it kind of disappeared awful quick.
It's gone this year, they
But
requested it.
they're apparently have leveled themselves out, or close to leveling themselves out.
And as far as the capital, we don't have any say on that, because I mean, it's all money that we pay, one way or
You as a
another.
taxpayer, I would say, huh, by going to,
But as a board, we don't know.
it's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically like a regional assessment. It's an assessment to
It's
the town.
assessment to the
Like
town,
another
it's
town.
based on their budget that's approved by a hearing, Yeah, from my experience on that board is 3 people in attendance, maybe. I've never seen 10 people in attendance. But I'd say they've got a pretty tight show overall.
Okay, the last question I have, I thought I had the last one before, but on the sand and salt, so it looks like we got lucky, we're sitting on about 105,000, unless he's got to order
Well,
something and stock
right,
up.
and we'll get, that's my next, thing to talk about what's going on here with, projects and so forth,
Okay.
and, you know,
All right,
working
I
this
guess-
thing out.
I guess I'll wait for it then.
Okay. You can't like hammer me on this stuff because you know what I mean? I'll just tell you, I'm just the messenger, okay?
We'll keep moving, but reserve the right to come back and
All
handle it.
right, okay, what, planning and zoning, is that 20 grand gonna be gone, or is that good for the end of the year?
We have, let's see, I have actually, there's probably 2 more pay cycles
Okay,
where anything that's gonna happen with that is gonna shake out within those next 2 pay cycles,
okay,
okay?
that's it for me.
And I'm not 100% sure on that yet.
Okay.
You wanna continue then?
What? Oh, me?
Yeah, it's not Jim's.
Treasurer?
What was the
Okay.
second question?
I don't have the
Question, so-
treasurer's report, but I will do Dan's report.
Sure,
Is that what
we'll
you're,
set
is
the
that what you're
graduation
saying? Okay.
Very clear.
He's sorry that he can't attend tonight because he's at the Region 7 graduation. That's tonight at the same time, okay?
I hope he's graduating.
Just to let you know that the USDA funds have been returned to the USDA for $455,891. Now, remember what that was this was, you got steep grant and then you got USDA funds, and USDA gave it all to you up front in this instance where they haven't in the past, all right? So, they've done like a recall on this, and this is not to say that we cannot have those funds back, but they want the control over it, okay? Because they want to get back in the game of, you know, you pay bills, and then you file the paperwork for the applications for payment,
Can you step
and then
back
what
just-
they do is they reimburse you for those things,
Can you
and they
step
wanted
back?
the control back on us.
What's the project?
This was for the wastewater treatment plant from USDA.
Which is long since done.
Oh, yes,
This was a project surplus,
yes,
They were
yes,
used for us.
started out like 600,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is a surplus from that.
yes,
And then we ended up around 400,000.
Thank you.
plus
Yes.
right?
yep. So it's
Okay.
not to say that we can't have this money back, but they want to just handle the control on it like is proper and appropriate.
Is there a time period during which we have access to that money, or, don't know?
I'm not sure
Yeah.
what the answer is to that, but all I know is that they wanted, they were asking for, expenditures that, WPCA had that would fit into the scope of this, which they do, and so it's just a matter of formalities to go through the proper channels in the kosher form.
So there are already projects that have been submitted?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is good.
They didn't
Yeah,
have to do it.
and they already are on board with all of this, WPCA is, and they know full well what's happening with this, and,
That was
You
gonna
know.
be my
Oh,
next
yeah.
question.
yep. Well, oh yes.
Extensions for sewers would be part of that 400 and.
What is exactly
Okay.
the scope is not my purview to, I don't know.
They were looking at certain
Yeah,
projects that.
WPCA.
There was some-
But they are fully aware of what's going on with all of this stuff.
So is that account closed out
There is about $17,000 in there that remains, and the majority of that is from interest that the town has earned.
They don't want that back?
Well,
That's
No,
they asked for $455,891 back, the USDA,
You have it in black and white that that's what they asked for?
Yes.
And that's what they.
and that's what they were given.
Saying-
So we'll just wait and see and, you know, let it be audited and, you know, see what comes of it. Hopefully they'll be able to use it for sewer extensions or whatever, you know? That applies to the project, but it's not within my purview to make any determinations on that, okay? Okay, so that's that one. FEMA applications for Irene and Lee are completed. They total $95,503.94. I'll give you this when I'm done, so that you have this. The FEMA application for Alfred _1 were the shelters and generators, and that is complete, and that totaled at $14,345.71. The FEMA application 2 for the Alfredo 2-part, which was the emergency work / debris removal, nearly complete, and the current total estimate on that is $29,719. On another note, Debbie Ventry has been hired to replace Nancy Eldridge as the assistant town clerk, so we have a new assistant, which is good. And Karen Wiederwalt has been hired to replace Debbie Ventry in the tax office. So those two positions have been filled. Debbie Ventry got hired for the town clerk assistant, and Karen Wiederwalt has been replaced for the tax collector assistant. Okay? Livery Pool Road has been repaved. The estimate on that is $60,000, which will come from the highway budget. Cross pipes of Woodchuck Lane are in process of being replaced. $20,000 is the estimate for that. I guess the pipe started to fail last week on that road and it started caving in. Drainage work is underway on Tanglewood Road. The repaving will be to follow on that. Estimates are being reviewed for drainage on Steel Road. Dan signed a new contract with Integris for electricity at the town hall and the garage. And this is a 4-year deal, and it's roughly 0.069 per kilowatt hour. So it's a lot less than what we were paying. The DPW uni contract is nearly finished. It's at the lawyers. The pension modification is finished. That's at the lawyers. Budget on track and in black. The state troopers, their costs continue to rise, and it's now at $104,000 per trooper. Like I said, we just got the bill on that. That's it.
questions?
No details, hopefully. Don't know the details. Those are basically the highlights, so, you know, if you have any questions or anything, please, you know, email me on.
Anything else for Annie before we move on?
How long for the FEMA one?
That is up in the air. I'm pretty sure at this point, obviously, it's gonna be a next fiscal year, and we had budgeted for it for next fiscal year, so I think this is probably actually a good thing,
Just what you
especially
budget.
since we're at 175 plus.
We budgeted $35,000, I think it
Well,
was.
it was not that bad.
Not knowing what
Right.
timing will, how long it's really gonna take.
Yeah,
I just got one more question on the expenditure budget, this thing.
okay.
Yeah, if there's a lot of money left over, generally though, that's, a lot of that will be used up before the year closes, right?
Yeah. You know how at the end of the year, when all the bills are paid, and then I do this proposed line item transfer thing,
Okay.
that's when all the money will
Okay.
kind of shake out.
So most of this will disappear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is in there now? How much is
Yes.
left in there right now?
Yeah.
Expenditure side?
5% or something?
Yeah,
4.5, which is less than a month.
That's actually short.
Well,
being
that,
prorated.
see, this is taking into account, you know, steep grant
Right,
things
I know.
and those
Yeah, so you
capital
can't-
items, and
you
you
can't
can't
use that.
count
You can't
that,
use that.
right, right. But we will always be within budget. Guaranteed.
You heard it.
Yeah, I heard it.
You heard it here. I'd be like, ah, if it wasn't the case.
You would think with a very mild winter that we've had, that there would be quite a bit of money left over from what hasn't been used in overtime, so from the highway fund. So I was kind of hoping to hear that we would have an excess rather than just balance. Is that-
Well,
I mean,
there
that
will
we
be
have more
some excess,
expenses.
but some of that will be to cover some projects that I listed here that are going on that need to happen with this, like,
Tree removal versus.
Tanglewood Road and the Woodchuck Lane thing.
And there's no money in the budget for that.
That's what this is gonna cover.
Is it?
I wouldn't be surprised to see some last minute action on Steel Road as well. We know we put some money aside for that, with some highway money.
He's got some bids out for that stuff right now, so, yeah.
There was the question, make sure the drainage is on property, which I would expect to see if there is gonna be some additional money, because it's somewhere along the line too. If that came out of town meeting,
We've got 2 weeks to put it in this year. Anything else?
Well, since the first selectman isn't here, I don't know if we can really have any kind of a discussion on it, but it would have been really nice to hear, what's happening with, as far as, the, RRDD #1 and Bart Campstead, proposal to have, sports fields over at the transfer station. Because, you know, at the last rec meeting, Rick Benike presented on behalf of the first selectman a full plan that had been done for Antolini for playing fields.
Right.
Which, these are large ticket items, and it seems to be, there could be a duplication there.
Or it could be either or.
Yes,
We
either
obviously,
or,
we all know
yes.
what we funded for it.
Right,
So how they choose to use that funding
right,
is up to them. I'm sure they'll tell us what they did or what they're doing most likely.
yeah, the 25,000 for the Antolini, absolutely. I guess, a broader implication would be to have sports fields available for the Gilbert Northwestern football team. And I don't know if that's something, that's a big ticket item that's gonna be hitting us one way or another. And it would be really nice to be able to get an update from the selectmen and be able to perhaps weigh in on that discussion.
Well, I think we're gonna find that, I don't know about the rest of the board, but you and I are probably at different ends of the spectrum on our involvement in that.
I realize.
My involvement in that is $28,000, and trusting the people to spend it as they see fit, knowing they might come back for more money if there's something better to do that costs more. It's always a possibility. But ours is a financial involvement. There's lots of ideas, lots of opinions, and I really would try to steer this board, unless the majority felt otherwise, away from getting deeply involved with what recreation does, particularly when it comes to football.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that you don't wanna get in there and micromanage recreation, because it's got really nothing for us. Where I think the involvement should be is when you have $500,000, let's say, just to throw out a figure, because nobody has actually put a dollar amount on this. This is gonna be a regional need, and whether that need would be better participated with other towns, like it would be at the RRDD #1 site, as opposed to outfooting the whole bill here in town, with the hope that the regional players would come and use our field, because we have a professional sized
I
field.
fully
here.
expect the people who are on the front lines of that issue will weigh in and make their recommendations and consider what they think they ought to do long before they bring it to the Board of Finance for our input on which way they wanna go or asking for money. I don't think it'll show up to us as a request for money all of a sudden, let me put it that way. I'm sure we'll get a chance to weigh in once things take shape, but as far as I know, this is something that's like a week old or 2 weeks old, at least from the paper anyway. Maybe it's longer than that, presumably, because of the maps and everything. But it's not our issue at this point, I guess.
I agree with you, but I'd be interested, I mean, from a finance standpoint, in terms of, where their heads are at on this whole thing with them closing Bakerville, and then apparently the discussion about going K through 12, which means getting the buyout from Region 7, building the school over the Antolini, tearing down the old Antolini, and then moving all the sports back up to Brody South.
Well,
So,
I do have, what I can say about that is I got a letter here from the Chairman of the Board of Education, which I just took a quick scan through, just saw it tonight, that is talking about wanting to get together to talk about consolidating schools. I don't think it was regionalizing. I don't think it was.
well, no, I heard the push was K through 12 because Norfolk and Colebrook are again going to come back next year with further reductions, which means we're going to have another increase in students because we're not changing. So we might see another 5 to 8% increase to New Hartford again from Region 7, and it doesn't look like it's.
We'll see what his request is, but what I saw was they were talking about a joint meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was along the subject line of what you're talking about, but it may be a fair question.
I think it's an interesting concept, K through 12. But
I thought that was on the
We've
whole.
already
It is?
looked at
Well,
that.
yeah, because I thought they did the study and the
Yeah.
determination was that because Colebrook and.
No, it's
No,
not,
this
it's
is
only
not
K
issue.
through 12 New Hartford only, it's
Oh,
not
I see.
regional. The
That's a new one.
concept is, from what I hear, if Bakerville closes, K through 12 in New Hartford, get out of Region 7, get the buyout from Region 7, because they're killing us with the
This would be a
taxes.
recommendation from the local board?
I don't know where it's coming from, and then they would probably put the new school over in the
I
Antolini
think
area.
we should wait.
Tear down the
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything along this line at all.
I haven't heard anything at all from the Board of Education on that, and it's certainly not a Board of Finance issue until the Board of Education
Yeah,
weighs in on it.
I think it's interesting.
I think you're gonna find the statutory requirements of getting out of R7.
Well, I was told that they have to give them a 1-year notice, and then they can put together a 2-year plan.
The only thing what I found, I've been on the board a long time, as Ben has, is that some of this stuff ends up getting, lots of discussions go on, and lots of things have, lots of ideas are passed through, and, for them to come to the board and to have the discussion here before, they're not even really, flushed out to have any type of real plan is not something that we generally deal with. We generally deal with when they have some sort of conceptual plan, and they're saying, okay, now we're thinking about spending X amount of money. And then at that point in time, we start having those discussions.
Well, I heard that they said it
As
has to
far
come
as- that
from,
way.
it has to come from the first selectman and the Board of Finance to send the directive to go and pursue it and get it done.
Get what done?
To get out of Region 7 and, pursue supporting, K through 12 school.
As far as Norfolk and Colebrook though, it's only for their elementary schools. They're studying this to combine their elementary schools. It's got nothing to do with the middle
I
and
don't know, that has their own,
and high
they're doing
school.
their own thing, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, well, when you said they're gonna be withdrawing their students and our costs will
No,
go
I
up
didn't say
by.
withdrawing, I didn't say
Oh,
that.
Any
excuse
other
me, I
Board of
wasn't-
Finance items?
If you wanna talk education, go talk to the Board of Education.
We do have if
No, it's
I
a big
look at this,
financial impact, and
when
that's why we
I
gotta
read this
think about
letter,
it.
it
We
sounds
don't
like
have to
there's
do it.
something that the Board of Education wants to talk to us about.
Yeah.
I suppose, I don't know if it would be inappropriate to float your thoughts out there or ask what's going on along that line at the meeting.
I heard this at that, thing of, excellence that they did at Angelini, I attended it, and I heard that from some of the Board of Ed members.
Is there a letter that we received now? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've got one dated June 12th. I just opened it
Okay.
as soon as I got here, from Brian Kilty to myself and Dan Jerem. It says, as you know, the Board of Education has prepared some preliminary work regarding the consolidation of New Hartford Public Schools. For the past several budget seasons, the Board of Ed has been required to make significant cuts to its operating budget. If that trend continues, there are a few options available to realize similar savings that will not have a detrimental impact on the education of our students. Prior efforts to consolidate and regionalize have not reached fruition, and it's time to reconsider consolidation and the future use of the school buildings in New Hartford. At the request of the Board of Education, I'm writing to seek a mutually agreeable time for our three boards to meet together so that we can examine the preliminary work completed and determine whether consolidation is viable and further action is warranted regarding this matter. So it sounds like there's some work that's not. The consolidation proposal will likely be very controversial for some residents. It is critical that the Boards of Education, Finance, Selectmen are mutually supportive of any forthcoming recommendations. I look forward to working with you on this matter. So what he's looking for from us are dates that are mutually agreeable to meet. I don't know what their intention is.
They just say consolidation, they're not saying K through 12.
We're talking consolidation.
Yeah, where they, I mean, they've been talking about that for
They're
a
not
while.
even-
Yeah,
they're
they're
not
two
even-
different, they're two
they're not
separate
even looking
topics
at
from what I
that.
understand, yeah.
I would say have them propose a couple times. In the summer, we're not gonna get as full a participation as we might otherwise, but I for one would suggest that they specifically push it out to September just to avoid that. I don't know if you guys feel the same way or not. Or do we say wait till September so we get a better chance of attendance?
My suggestion is they meet twice a month, I don't know if they do that during the summer, but maybe their next Board of Ed meeting, they cut it in half because it's the summer and, we get through it with a meeting. That would be my suggestion, because I'd hate to go to September as well.
Right.
I'd rather just get it done with.
I agree.
Yeah.
If they need
So I'll
time
tell them
plan.
to pick a few meeting dates that don't happen to coincide with Board of Finance meetings.
Obviously, this is not gonna happen in a vacuum. So
Right.
if some of us miss the meetings, you're not gonna miss the information.
Right. It's not gonna be done in one meeting anyway.
So
So I'll tell them we're anxious to get involved in it and pick a few dates with their possibilities.
Absolutely.
The only other thing is meetings in the summer. Generally, we have skipped either a July or an August meeting. Sounds like it's going to be more like August before we have some year-end numbers. So we may want to skip a July meeting unless there's some specific things we want to hear about.
I would make a motion that we skip the July meeting and, the chair only calls a special meeting and an emergency and we just wait until August.
We can do that. Do we really want to do it with a motion so that, I guess I can always call a special meeting.
Yeah.
Or we just leave that meeting would be a month from now, if something comes up, we would have it.
Well, that's what I was
Otherwise, you would cancel it.
That's what I was thinking, without a motion,
Better way to do
we've
it.
got a meeting standing and we can cancel as we did in June, I guess it was.
If you like.
May.
I'd like to
It's
put
a
that.
posted regular meeting, so that the public expects it.
And we can see if Jim's in the country or not.
Exactly.
Maybe it's a conference call. Or maybe I
That
would see
day,
what you are.
I've attended a Board of Finance meeting with be a conference call.
My travel's been unbelievable this spring. I'm gonna been in Europe for the last 4 months.
Let me just delete your motion.
You can if you'd like,
Okay.
I'll withdraw it.
It's gone.
Now, if the Board of Ed would want to meet in July, we would be available. Okay.
Matter of fact, I would throw our meeting date out as an option for them in July if they want to do that.
Excellent. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's probably a good idea.
Anything else to come before the board?
I have something, may
Yes.
I? A couple of commission members have asked me, they have concerns about their access to the funds that they've been allocated in the budget. Basically, they have X amount that we allocate to them, or they have, say, 3,500, whatever, in their little pot. And so they have projects that come along that they would like to use that money for. And it appears that recently, in the last couple of years, there has been an approval process put into place where they can't access that money unless the first selectman signs off on the project. And especially the longer term members, that's not how they remember it working. And so they asked me to bring it to the Board of Finance for clarification. I don't know how you go about clarifying that. Is it a statute or what? But they would just basically, some commissions have bills that they've, for legitimate projects that they've, within their charter, that they've received services, but they haven't received the approval of, the First Selectman's office to pay those bills. And so now they're in a situation where, what do? Renege on the bill, or? So I wanted to bring that to you.
Any particular commission specific?
Well, I could name like 4, if you like. I mean, it's fairly widespread.
Do you have something in writing from these members of the commission on that?
I don't think I need anything in writing.
No, I object to you bringing what I would consider hearsay to this board without a document showing that.
Well, then
So
why don't I change it then, Reggie? Let it be my request so that I understand how this works.
If you have it in writing, I'd love to see it too. I'm agreeing with you, but
Yeah.
just bringing it and saying some commissions is more than just a little ambiguous.
Some members of commissions
We
have expressed
We operate on
to me-
dollars and cents written down. I mean,
Yes.
just to come here and say, I heard, or commission member told me, I would like to see it in writing. I mean, I don't think that's the way the board should operate.
I don't think it's, first of all, I don't think it's the commission's right to spend the money as they see fit.
I'm just asking for clarification, that's all.
In my
I have
view,
no interest in
there is a sign-off process, and there should be a sign-off process. In my view, there should be a purchase order approval, and then you can make the purchase. And I know that doesn't always work that way. Sometimes we're submitting purchase orders in arrears, but in my view, you want something, you get the approval to buy it, and you buy it, and then it automatically gets paid for. If the town has bought it, the town's gonna be on the hook for it. Okay, the fact of the matter is, whether it's been approved yet or not, the town's gonna be on the hook because the town made the purchase, right? It must have been bought with a town purchase order.
Well, I've asked a little bit on the history of this, and it appears that Bill Baxter was the one who came up with, he wanted to know where money was going.
There you
So
go.
he would sign off, but it wasn't to approve, it was to see that he had seen where the money was going. And that, from just an actual, seeing where the commissions were choosing to use their budget, it has been turned into an approval process. And I guess I would like to know, do the commissions, when we allocate money to them in the budget and it's approved, do they have access to that money for legitimate projects? Or is there this additional where they now must seek approval for those projects?
Well, don't they have their own, at least skeleton line item budget budget that they put together and submit to Dan, so.
Everyone puts their budgets together and
Yeah.
submits it to you. But that doesn't mean you're at free will to spend it. I'll give you
I
an
agree.
example.
I agree.
Overtime. It's a budget line item. I'm the highway supervisor. I have X amount of dollars in overtime. I'm doing the overtime, period. And I'm thinking, not necessarily, not if I'm the first selectman. Maybe if you were the first selectman, you might say, fine, you got $20,000 worth of overtime. Don't overspend it. I'm not gonna increase it. You're on your own. That may be a management style that somebody uses.
I agree, but they are talking about a town department versus a commission. There's a very real difference there.
There's no difference, it's taxpayer money that's allocated to the budget. There's a budget cycle that's in place. Dan is responsible, our first selectman, for the town operating budget, includes all those line items. And the process of sticking within the budget is important. So you've got a budget, what's the allocation? And the allocation is against that line item that was budgeted. If it's over, then it's not approved. If it's under, then it is approved. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we're just going based on.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jim.
Yeah.
If it's over, obviously they would need to go back to
And
the
we
first
don't
selectman
know.
and justify. This is where they have money available that they haven't used for the year. It's coming up to the end of the year, and now they're fretting because there are bills that they have run up that have not been paid, even though that money is available within their line item. And that's the question I'm bringing to you.
Andy, would you like to comment on that? Sounds like you had some.
Well,
The bills that get entered.
It's
Not
just that we
specifically that
have
bill.
and Bill Baxter and his treasurer at the time were the ones that came up with the purchase order policy.
Right.
There's a matrix that you can only spend so much, all right, that each individual person, and it's listed out, can only spend so much per purchase order. But you do have to have purchase orders in place with signatures from the proper priorities first before purchases are made outside on behalf of the town.
So I want to ask you this, okay, once the money has been allocated to these commissions, and they really have their own charge to take care of certain aspects of town business. Once that money has been allocated to them, are we saying then that that's not really their money to use?
Do they make their own payments?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Do they make their own
Still
payments?
subject to
No.
selectmen's.
It's done
I
through
think
the
you're
first
They
still,
get a
selectman.
purchase
you are
order
still
approved.
subject to those.
That's their budget.
Purchase order.
It wouldn't be the
You can
first
only spend
time
so
where
much per
somebody,
purchase
particularly at the end of the year, said, hold off your expenditures. We've got this that we want to get done. Hold off expenditures in this area. Once the purchases have been made, the town's on the hook for it, okay, whether we like it or not. But the policy that you just described is, to me, the right way to do. You want to make a purchase, you have a purchase requisition, you get it approved, you buy it, and then they're gonna get paid against the
Right.
purchase order. There's
So,
no, there's no.
in other words, because I didn't hear any complaint or not being in sync with the idea of a purchase order. I guess it's the matter of if it's not approved.
If you have a purchase order,
Yes.
if they have a purchase order,
There's a
I don't think
matrix
we would be having this
with
conversation.
certain
Right,
people with
exactly.
certain limits for purchasing that you have to follow on that. And if you go above and beyond those dollar figures, then you need to get the authorization of the first selectman, always. And that's all part of the matrix on the purchase order
And this is
policy.
something that Bill Baxter came
Yeah,
up with independently, because these people remember before Bill Baxter, where for years they've been able to operate and do what it is that they need to do, always within their line item. So,
It's one of
I'm
those
sure that
things
it's
we've
been-
always been
I'm sure it's
trying
been
to
that loose
tighten
from
up.
time to time, depending on the management style of people involved. But I know over the last several years, it's gotten tighter and tighter control where purchases are approved. But again, from what you described, once the purchase has a purchase order, it's not a matter of whether we're gonna pay the bill or not. It might be
That's
cash flow
golden, huh?
timing. But the debate that it sounds like it's there, it sounds like it's a purchase that's been made without the backup of a purchase order. Because if there was a purchase order to back it up,
But what you're saying is that the purchase order needs to be signed off first.
Depending
before-
upon the dollar
before-
amount.
Before the commission can go out and do something that is within their
Correct.
charge.
That's
Every
right.
department has that,
Right.
Okay.
every single
De-
department in
I
town.
agree, department is a town department.
That's still the
Absolute-
same.
Doesn't
Commission,
matter.
commissions are a different breed.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Not when it
I
comes
know,
to
I
this.
know we've
Company
done, I know we've said to
Doesn't
different
have a
commissions,
process for purchase orders.
Do they have commissions though?
I
We're-
know
we're
of no
talking about a
private
different-
company that doesn't have multiple
We're not a
signatures
private
part of all.
company. We are not a private.
We are a
company.
municipal corporation.
We're not a
Within
private.
there is an
we're not a
executive
pri-
board that runs this town. The general government budget is run by the board of selectmen. The
Reggie,
commissions
Reggie, I can
under
hear.
it,
I'm right here next to you.
well, they're good,
Okay,
because
there's
you're obviously
no-
not getting the
There's no
message.
reason for you to
You're not
yell.
getting the message.
I'm
Right.
hearing
The
what
board
you
of
just-
selectmen
what you
are in
said.
charge of the general
Okay.
government budget. The commissions are under that general government budget. This is an issue for the board of selectmen.
it is, and there's an approval process for the expenditures. I can tell you for sure, we've taken money from certain areas and said, I don't wanna spend this money on whatever it might be, just to pick one, it might be economic development. We're getting tight, we may need to use that money elsewhere, tighten the belt now type things. I mean, this happened, all of the school does it all the time, okay? But that does happen. The fact that it's in the budget for a board or a commission is not an automatic right to be able to spend it as they see fit. There's still financial controls, there's still an opportunity for them to lobby on something if they feel they should be able to spend it and they're not allowed to. It sounds to me like it's more of the same of a disagreement between a commission and the board of selectmen, which frankly, I'm not inclined to get involved in as long as people are following policy. And if they're following policy procurement, they'd have a purchase order with the approval that they need for the dollar amount that's been committed, that's being committed, and it gets paid, the town's on the hook for it.
So you're saying that the dollar amount is what is being approved, rather than whether they choose to use it on this part of their charge or that part of their charge, correct?
I would expect, I can't answer it because it's not my decision, it's an operating decision that that the first selectman makes. But if let's say somebody has a $500 spending limit, if the first selectman or board of selectmen don't like the way they're using that $500 limit, taking a $5,000 project and chopping it up into small payments to keep it under $500 or something, they might take exception to that limit. Okay, they're responsible for operations of the town, and the boards and commissions, whether they like it or not, are under the direction of the board of selectmen, and it's in their best interest to figure out how to get along with them and how to work with them, because the board of selectmen are the ones that are in charge of the purse strings.
Is there some kind of a statute that this policy is based on, for approving commission's expenditures?
I don't know, but there's a purchasing policy.
The purchasing
I believe it's
policy.
actually a written policy, or was. Is it binding? I don't know that it's binding, but I don't know that it has to be. It's at the discretion of the board of selectmen.
I would add to that, it's just sound good business practice, that purchase orders is still in place, so that there's some
Purchase
control.
order, from what I hear.
So is this some commission member, or is this a board of, is this a chairman?
Commissions,
Commission member or the chairman of the
Chairman.
board?
chairman and commission members, both.
I would like to, I'd like to take the debate off the table until two things happen. The people that have the concern, raise their concern with the board of selectmen, and if they just can't resolve it, they can ask to come to the board of finance. But I've got some questions in my mind before we entertain their issues, and it's not my decision, it's our decision, but I have some questions about protocol before we let people come to air their disputes with the Board of Finance because they're not getting along. Where was that fall with the Board of
Personally,
Selectmen?
as a Board of Finance member, if somebody comes up to me and says, can I use that money to do something within my charge? You know, I would like to know the answer to that, as a
Well,
personal board of
I think
finance.
we've given you that answer, at least
Well,
for
I
this
keep
part of
getting
the
protocol, and it's, to me, protocol is something that's made up as you go along to fit the circumstance.
Perhaps,
You know, if
perhaps it
somebody
is.
came to me with that question, the answer is, go to the board of selection.
Absolutely.
So are you saying that you would be able, as a board of finance member, be able to go and purchase something?
Oh, no,
So what would be
absolutely
the
no.
protocol
As
then?
a board, okay, as a board, you make decisions on how you want to use the money that's allocated to you. Once that decision has been made, and I'm actually talking about commissions, but we are a board. Once that decision has been made, and the money is within your budget, you're not going beyond what's budgeted for you, then you submit a purchase order to the first selectman to be signed off on, because you're within your budget, within your purview of how you can utilize that money. You hope and you expect that these people are doing work that is in the best interests of the town.
And you're
Okay,
saying that that's not happening?
yes, and that's not happening. And that's why, you know, there's a sense of, you know, consternation, if you like, that in the past it has happened, and now, you know, there are some that have bills that are sitting there, and the approval is not forthcoming, and yet it's very clearly within what it is that they're supposed to be using that money for.
So
And that's why I would like to know, you
just
know.
for the heck of it, and I don't
Yes.
wanna have any debate on it or anything like that, but you said 4 commissions. So what are the 4 commissions? Can you name them?
Well, just look at your commissions, how many
No, you
commissions do
said
we
4, I
have?
don't wanna look, I'm
Okay.
asking you.
Okay,
What 4 are they?
so how many commissions do we have? We have.
No, you said there's 4 that are
Okay,
having
Let me
issues.
see, we have Recreation Commission, we have Planning and Zoning
Is
Commission.
the Recreation Commission one that's
Hang on,
having issues?
listen, how many are there altogether?
I'm just going by what you said there's 4.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, well, how many commissions do we have altogether? Maybe 6, maybe 7 at the most? If the majority of them are coming up with the same difficulty, let's say.
I would like to
I'm
see
not
this all
convinced
black and white.
that they are,
So I'm gonna make a
based
motion to
on-
adjourn here.
based on what you're telling me. I'm just not convinced that they are, I'm sorry. And if they are, they need to get to the first selectman, or they need to get a little bit more broader in this room if they really wanna get us engaged, on board, because the board of selectmen is doing something that far out in left field. If they follow the purchasing policy, there's not gonna be a problem. If the board of selectmen, the first selectman, doesn't like what they're spending the money on, that person has the right to say, no, I don't like the way we're going with this direction. Then it's a political risk for that person who's saying no.
But you should have the purchase order in place before you go and contract the service.
Then you don't have the people.
Then you don't have any, there's
Our
no BS.
responsibility is to create a budget that the council will vote on, monitor that budget, and to set a mill rate. What she's talking about is an executive authority which rests with the board of select. I would like to stop this discussion right now.
I disagree with your characterization
Well,
of
then
that.
go read the statutes, Larry, because you haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
Okay, let's do this.
You don't.
It's time to table it. We don't have the
That's
first
why I said I would
selectman
like
to
to know,
answer.
I would like to know the legal
I don't think the
basis
first
on it.
selectman has to answer something where a board has gone to a commission has gone to the board of finance to carry their case to it because they didn't get what they want for whatever reason from the board of selectmen. There's 3 board of selectmen, that person can go lobby amongst the board of selectmen for the operational issues.
Absolutely.
And let's leave it at that.
Well, as a new member of the board, I appreciate the discussion because I wasn't clear, okay? And
You're a game member, we talked about this for a half hour now.
So, let's table it. Anything else to come before the board?
I've given you the state statutes. Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you for your time.
Nice work.
do you